PC. Before we prepare to ring in the new year, our friends at Hollis, Wright & Clay have a few tips to keep in mind when it comes to workplace accidents and workers' compensation clauses. This morning we have Attorney Allwin this morning telling us a little bit about that. Allwin, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Certainly. So I think there are some myths, there are some common misconceptions about what you can do when you have an accident at work, when you get hurt, something happens.
Well, a little history on it, when you're injured on the job, it's a no-fault system, meaning that if someone's hurt on the job, it doesn't matter if it's someone else's fault or their fault, or they just have an accident in the normal course of their business. The Workers' Compensation Act was created in order to provide compensation benefits, part of your pay while you're out of work, healing, as well as medical treatment for those that are injured on the job. So what you need to do is, if you do have an accident on the job, make sure you report it to your employer and you seek medical treatment. It's very important to do that.
Certainly. Now, what if your employer tells you, oh, it's too late, too much time has passed since the injury?
That's not accurate. The general rule in Alabama is if you're injured on the job, you're supposed to report it within five days. But sometimes you have an accident where you're not capable of reporting. You may be injured, have to go to the hospital, and you're unconscious or something of that nature. So there are exceptions of the rule that as long as the employer's provided 90 days notice of the injury, whether it's from you or someone else, you will be covered. But it is important to make sure that happens. And something else with regards to your medical treatment, when you go to the doctor, it's so important to provide a direct and specific history about how you got hurt, because these records are going to be used as evidence later in the case. You're dealing with an insurance company. Sometimes insurance companies don't want to pay claims, so make sure you document your accident properly.
Now, can your employer fire you while you're filing for workers' compensation?
It is against the law in the state of Alabama to fire somebody for seeking workers' compensation benefits or being injured on the job. Typically, Alabama is an employee at will state, meaning you can be fired for any reason or no reason at all. However, there is special exception by statute that that someone cannot fire you, or an employer cannot fire you for seeking workers' comp benefits. However, the burden of proof is on the employee to prove that. You have to prove the sole reason for the termination was because you sought workers' compensation benefits.
Certainly, yes. So there's some work to be done there.
There is, and it can be a difficult case, but that's why documentation is so important in these cases. And it's good to get to an attorney early on to help you and advise you of these things. Some employers are there, they'll help you, insurance companies will help you, but there are a lot that won't, and you got to look out for yourself. But that's why Hollis Wright has attorneys that will help you do that. Absolutely.
In these types of cases, are you required to see the company's doctor?
You are required to do that. Some people say it's a downfall. I think it is. However, the trade-off is that you're not paying for any of the medical treatment. So the Workers' Compensation Act did give the employers or their insurance companies the benefit of being able to select the physicians. They get to choose the doctors. If they choose a doctor, that doctor makes a referral to another doctor, then that doctor becomes authorized. However, they're paying for the bills, so they get to choose the doctors. There are some exceptions that if you're dissatisfied with the treating physician you do get a one-time option where the employer or the insurance company gets to put a list of 4 doctors on a piece of paper, and you can choose another doctor to get a second opinion.
Certainly, yeah, that you have a little bit of
a choice, a little bit of
there.
leeway. That's right.
So what should somebody do if they are injured on the job?
I would say there are 2 things that are most important. Number one, you want to provide that notice when you're hurt on the job, whether it's through you or someone else. And then you want to seek medical treatment. You want to make sure that if you're hurt, you need medical treatment. You need to go to the doctor. So go ahead and go. And then when you get there, make sure you tell somebody what happened. You don't want to say, I don't know how I got hurt, I'm not sure. Sometimes we have a lot of people that have been working for employers for a long time, and they don't want to rock the boat, so to speak. They don't want to cause problems for them, and they think they will. But make sure you accurately describe your accident, your injury, and what's wrong with you when you go to start that paper trail in a medical history. And the other thing I'd say is, keep up. Sometimes it takes a while to get a claim open. Keep up with your mileage, keep up with any bills you have to pay. But go ahead and talk to an attorney as well, and let them advise you what to do. The insurance company will call you. They have adjusters that want to take statements and recorded statements, and sometimes it's to open up the file, but a lot of times they'll get into your past and they're looking for reasons to deny a claim. So report the injury, get medical treatment, and get to an attorney would be the top 3 things I'd say.
Certainly. Allwin, thank you so much for your time and information. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.